I'm not entirely sure why I'm making this video. Maybe it's just like a way to get some thoughts out. Maybe someone will see this and understand where I'm coming from, and maybe they can relate. Or maybe this is just one of those things that just goes on the wayside and no one's really gonna pay it much mind or anything. This place is amazing. For those that can't tell what this is Anti-Heat's apartment. It's a world that's been around since 2018. And it's one that's evolved and grown a lot since then. Even at the time, I remember it first coming around. It was incredible even then. And to give you an idea, there's just so much to see here. It is drenched with lore, atmosphere, intrigue. It's practically its own living, breathing place. A fabrication that I can tell is the result of years of building, dreaming, creating. I know what that's like. I've had my own things I've created over time and never really knew how to share it with the world, I guess. I've tried many things over time. I've tried drawing. I've tried writing. I mean, I guess the writing wasn't too bad, but not many people are gonna sit there and read some bullshit stuff that you just put to paper or pixels to a screen. I have a lot of things in my head, and like lore, stories, concepts, stuff that I've like have built up this character, the things around it, its lore and everything. I never really had many opportunities to kind of share that with the world, as it were, other than like some writings I did in the past and a random module I did for Neverwinter Nights years ago. And I guess now I'm starting to really breach into like my own like way to hopefully finally express that through like this series that I've been making, the Escape series. Like there were little dashes of it in there, and as I'm sitting here, I feel like I'm probably ready to finally go with the next season, because I did one season of that, which was just 4 episodes. It was just a mini series. And the other part of me kind of wishes, like, I don't know, I had my own like place with these things, but I don't, because it's weird. Like, I guess we're all looking for a place, something. Like, I never really felt like I had a home anywhere. Like, I've been all over the place, through Furcadia to Second Life to here and a bunch of other things in between. And even when I was in those places, like, I never really, like, I guess stuck anywhere for long. Whether it was the people I knew or places I kind of thought were home, but didn't stay that way. We're just socially nomadic, so we don't have like a definitive group of people. It's just, believe me, there's days I wish I could. It would just make things a lot easier, and I don't know, because I'm always on the move, I don't really have, like, there's no stone. There's no stone for me to just fall back on. I mean, there's a few folks I'm close to, certainly. Yeah, it's interesting to just peer into these circles and see them just kind of thrive and be built up the way they have been. Sometimes it's like over the course of years. And because of that, it's like its own culture. And when you go into it, you're kind of immersed in that, and it's like its own ecosystem. There's definitive patterns of people and behaviors and beliefs and whatnot. That's like all intriguing of itself, but like what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, I admire that, but I also understand that getting involved in like basically settling down and like kind of being part of that, or whether it's because you formed that yourself or you kind of got inducted into it one way or another. I understand why people want to do that, because they like to have that sense of stability and predictability, but at the same time it can cause stagnation and create an echo chamber of ideas, and you get too like wrapped up in that, then you become blind to everything else, and your ideas start to become truth, whereas everything else starts to become fiction or hearsay, which is why I just don't really have any, as I said, home or stone or anything like that. I guess it's just a primitive part of my mind that wishes it could actually just be part of something, just to feel a belonging. But I know that just based on what I said, it's not what I should do. It's either like, yeah, I practically am carrying that, or like I just find it hard to like find any way to get any involvement in that. Of course, then begs the question, why should I waste my time with that if it's not going to yield anything? Absolutely. I mean, you can only hit your head against the wall so many times before you realize maybe I should just stop. I mean, like, trying to get involved with like a certain group of people, and for the sake of just understanding them and kind of getting immersed in that. But when said group seems difficult to kind of pierce beyond the surface, then it's like, well, why should I bother going deeper than that if it's just not going to let itself be that way? Or maybe they realize and see that I am the kind of person that is not chained to any particular group or outlet or whatever, and they don't see the point in having me be involved. This is why I just want to wander the stars, widen my perspectives even more, understand the beauty of our universe and what it all is. I'm asking for a lot, obviously. I think my concepts of that are a little too romantic, more than the practical, though. I think my desire for like exploring space and just seeing what's out there is more of a fantasy and a personal desire more than a practical one that would actually service the function of being requiring a profession. But I think what I need to do to start to etch more of my own imprint on things is to start planning out and actually tackling the next season for Escape and making that become a reality. There's more, I need to get more things out of my head and just share it. I did the whole Escape series right from the gut, right from my head. Nothing planned, nothing written down ahead of time. I knew exactly how to do it. It literally lives up there. That's why I need to get it out. Which is why video productions mean so much to me, because for the first time it's allowed me to really be able to express and just get a lot of this out. Something I've been wanting to do for years. Let's see where that goes. I came on here after and just been kind of like going to a few worlds and just contemplating things, being hit heavily by inspiration, because just being here is really fueled that. I can't just decide when these things come into being. It's just, there's moments where it feels right, and then I just go for it. And it will happen, because I see how this was produced probably through very similar things. It's a passion that just is let loose and creates wonderful things. There definitely is certain music that will also do that as well, which is why I make a lot of music videos, because usually the song ended up producing in my mind what you saw visually in the video itself. So it's each song kind of tells its own story in a way, even if I'm reinterpreting it for my own purpose. The right song definitely creates a lot of vivid imagery and feeling. Growing up, I didn't really have very many friends, so it's just like one of those things I just did because what else was I gonna do? It was just definitely an early indication of that fascination of wanting to explore, to see what was out there. There's a lot of worlds that you can explore, and VR kind of helps make it a lot more personal than viewing it through a screen, which is like a window to the world rather than actually being a part of it. No, I don't like being alone, but there are times where I feel like I need to be alone. That's, I mean, you can just do that, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's moments like these I'm not really sure who to really talk to, because it's tricky. You can quickly tell within the first moment whether it's, yeah, I'm like, okay, no, you don't get it. I'm not foolish. I can usually tell what people are about pretty quickly. I've had to learn to do that for most of my life, so. All in the name of like just trying to find, for pretty much what I was talking about, a sense of belonging, identity, a piece to fit in this puzzle that is life, and trying to make some sense or understanding of that. But I feel like, yeah, like that's great and all, but I think people care too much about the stuff that really just doesn't fucking make a difference or matter at the end of the day. And they're going about all wrong. Let me tell you something. When I was growing up at the age of 10, I still remember this day. It'll never leave my mind because it's etched there for the rest of time. But I was on a bowling league at the time, so every Saturday, like, I would, go into this bowling alley, play some games, and come back home, And I remember one day coming back, I felt a way that I never felt before, and it was very scary, very bad, very negative. I don't know what it was. It was terrifying. It was a sensation, a feeling that came over me of dread. Literally dread. And I didn't know why. And so I panicked. And I felt my extremities going numb and tingly. I felt my vision fading. My heart was racing, and I was basically in a panic. And my mom, realizing this, just quickly rushed me home. Thankfully, we were not very far, so within a minute we were back and went inside. And my mom and I lived with her parents at the time, and so after talk with me for a bit and seeing how I was feeling, things seemed okay. It was weird. So, okay, whatever. I don't know what that was about, but the problem is that it kept coming back now. That feeling. And it continued to do so without any rhyme or reason. So, needless to say, this led to seeing doctors, psychiatrists, trying different medications and stuff, and nothing was really ultimately fixing the problem. So after a while, it was diagnosed that I had an anxiety disorder where it would induce panic attacks. And when that happened, it would be like basically it was a downward spiral of falling into that pit, resolving itself, and then finally digging out of it, pulling yourself out of it again, and things are okay. And for that to happen at like the age of 10, when I was just a kid, is just awful. To this day, I'm not entirely sure like what the origins of it were. I mean, it might have been due to like some deaths that happened that I just couldn't resolve in my head, and so they manifested and in a way that just did that. Like, I watched, granted they weren't a close friend, they died, and I had like a couple deaths in the family, and I didn't cry or feel sadness. I just felt numb to it. I didn't know how to process that, and I think somehow eventually that just kind of just oddly, I don't know, it just evolved to whatever that was, I guess. I'm not too sure what else, but either way, yeah, that became like a problem I had to deal with, and I didn't know how to deal with it because it would just sometimes come on so unexpectedly. But thankfully, over time, I did learn some trends that typically sparked it. So I was able to kind of better control it over time, but obviously it was still an issue. I basically found coping mechanisms is what it was. Things that helped to stave it off and keep it from getting too crazy. Well, fast forward many years later, I was in my early 20s at this point, so I've had this condition for over a decade now. Over a fucking decade. And I got tired of it. And one day I just kind of sat down and asked myself, why? Why is this a thing that I have to go through? Why is this something that just plagues me and I just can't seem to escape it? I thought about it, and I was like, there's something about this. There's a pattern, a definite pattern to it all. Like, yeah, this shit comes up, it happens, great. But there's a definitive truth to all this that always happens, and it always ends with me coming out at top every time. It's not like it happens and I'm like, oh no, I'm defeated, and then dies. No, that doesn't happen. It stops, it resolves, and I'm fine. Every time. It just never goes bad to the point where like I pass out or something really bad happens to me. It's more like, oh, it's done. And thinking of that process and realizing that was a definitive truth that I could grasp onto sparked a sense of confidence. And through that confidence, I was able to self-analyze and basically go inside my own head and try to basically rewire the aspects of that by personifying this anxiety as an actual creature, a creature that I could actually talk to, and more importantly, talk down to, because it was an undesirable in my mind. So what I would do is I would talk down to it and basically address it in such a way that it was inferior to me, to basically tell it that, I'm not going to let you control my life anymore, because I realize that every time you attempt to, I always come out on top. And because of that, I have no reason to fear you anymore. I have no reason to let you control me and to pull my strings, because you honestly don't do anything positive for me. And I would do that every day I could. I would go inside my own head and tell them that and talk down to it and make it realize that I was in control here of my life, not whatever this thing was. And let me tell you, after like a few months or so, I don't know if you've ever, like, if you've ever walked out on a winter's day when it's snowing and there's snow everywhere, like, there's a serenity to that that's not like anything else. Like, it's a stillness in the air that's peaceful and calming, and it just, when you feel that, that's what I felt. Like, for the first time, I just sat there and realized that I overcame it. I was able to, like, just completely isolate that part of me. And to the effect that it no longer was like something that would control me or even come on unexpectedly anymore. I literally overcame what it was to the point where it doesn't even become an issue anymore, and it has not since the age of 25.